Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi. If you want to see how I created this look, then please keep on watching. So I've already put some Pixie Rose oil onto my face. Now I'm going to go in with the Pixie Rose Flash Balm. This might seem a little weird, but I'm going to put foundation on half of my face and I'll tell you the reason later on. So literally just the top of my head, and I'm going to be blending that out with my sponge. If any of you lot are wondering what sponge this is, it isn't the Real Techniques one. I don't know what brand it is, but it literally cost like less than £2. I think it was maybe like £1.60 or something, and it was from Home Bargains, not B&M, just Home Bargains. It comes in like a little clear box and it's brilliant. It's exactly like the Real Techniques one. Exactly the same. It just doesn't have the Real Techniques branding on it. I don't know if I've mentioned, but this is the Makeup Forever Ultra HD stick in the shade Y445. This foundation is brilliant for dry skin. If you've got oily skin, I'd maybe stay away from it because I have heard that it's a bit of an oil slick on that skin type. Now I'm putting the Maybelline Age Rewind Concealer in the shade Light all over my lids. And this is the base that I'll be using for my eyeshadows. And I'm also using the 142 to apply it. Just before I get onto my eyeshadow, I'm just going to blend my base and my foundation together. This is just so the colours merge nicely and there's not a stark edge. For this tutorial, I'm using a palette that I think every girl is bound to have. It's the Morphe 3502 palette, which looks like this. It's just the most beautiful warm tone palette in my opinion, and the formula is great. To start this look off, I'm going to go in with the shade Orb, which is this colour, the third shade on the top row. And I'm just taking a Zoeva 228, and what I'm going to do is get a generous amount on and buff it in my crease. And we're pushing that brush deep into the socket. Now the reason I put my foundation on the top half of my face first is because I want to be able to blend my eyeshadows right out. I don't want to potentially cover that up if I was to put my foundation on afterwards. So the way I like to do this is just apply a lot of colour. I like to bring it quite far up, and I'm literally going to keep going in, keep swirling, and I'm going to keep building it up until I feel like I've got a really nice base colour down. I feel like I should probably zoom in, it'd be more helpful. Right, hopefully that's a little bit better to see. And then I'm just fanning that colour out. I don't know if you've noticed though, but in every single one of my videos so far I've gone in with clean brushes. Aren't I just like a top YouTuber? I've just got into the habit of doing it and it's just so much better. The way I've been cleaning it is with IPA. You can get it quite cheap on eBay and stuff like that. It's a cheaper alternative than the Cinema Secrets brush cleaner that I've got. But I do prefer the Cinema Secrets one. I just feel like it really gets everything out. But it's a cheap alternative if you want to try that out. All I do is I dip my brushes into the alcohol and then swirl it onto a flannel and keep repeating until everything out of the brush is completely out. I mainly just do it for my eyeshadow brushes though, just for convenience. I feel like with face brushes it takes up a lot of liquid, and plus with foundations and whatever being on it, it's better to just clean it properly. To deepen the look up, I'm going to be using the shade Brick, which is the 5th shade on the 3rd row. And I'm applying this colour with a Zoeva 227. And what I'm going to do is pack that colour onto my socket, tapping it on first. And for this, I like to look up slightly into the mirror, just so that it doesn't go too far up with how big this brush is. And then I'm just going to buff that out. I'm sticking my brush right into my socket. And I'm going to swirl that outer corner and flick it out. With this look, I like to go back and forth with the colours. So I'm probably going to go back with the Orb shade and go over the top. So don't be scared if you put on that Orb shade quite high up in the first place, because the likelihood is that you're going to end up covering it up anyways. I've only just realised that this is going to be like my 4th tutorial. How many tutorials is this now? I think it's my 4th. This is going to be my 4th tutorial that's basically all gonna be bloody orangey warm tones, which is a bit annoying, but I promise I'll use a different colour family in my next video. Taking my other brush and the orb shade, just going over the top and blending that colour out more. Don't be scared of really flicking out the colour, because if you've got small eyes, this will just make them seem a lot bigger. Just keep going back and forth until you get a really nice colour payoff and blend. Next, I'm going to be darkening my outer corner with the shade In the Zone, which is the last colour on the second bottom row. And the brush I'm using for this is the Sigma E25. And what I'm doing with this is I'm just tapping my outer corner with that colour. I'm not blending it, literally just tapping. Have your head slightly turned up into the mirror so you can get that nice application. And I'm just laying down the colour first before I even think about blending. And with this brush, I'm mainly using it on its side, the narrow side of the brush, just so I can be a little bit more precise with where I'm putting the colour. And then I'm going to go back in with my Zoeva 227 and just buff the edges out. If you're having problems with muddy makeup, it could be for a few reasons. One being you could just be using an eyeshadow palette or eyeshadows with a shitty formula. This palette's really nice and it's reasonably cheap for what you're getting in the palette. It's about £20 or something like that. It could also just be the colours that you're using. If you're using cooler tones, they're obviously harder to blend just because of the colour. The warmer the tone is, the easier it's gonna blend. Don't know why. It's maybe something to do with the pigment, but that's just how it is. It could also be just crappy brushes. It could be that your brush isn't dispersing the colour properly. It could be a technique. It could just be a lot of things, to be honest. Now, when I was doing my research on Instagram, some of you were saying that you've got a bit of difficulty with darker colours, especially when it comes to adding black. So I'm going to show you what I do with that. Also just blending that dark colour across my lid slightly, just so it's not too harsh a blend. Right, for this, I'm going to be taking a Zoeva 231 brush. I'm just going to be using the black in the palette. Obviously you don't need me to show you what a black looks like. A black's a black. But I'm just going to dab my brush in lightly and I'm going to bang it so the excess black comes off. Notice that I never bang off my eyeshadow ever, really. I always go on with full pigment, but not with this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pat, and it's better off to like start off light with a black rather than putting too much on and just not being able to blend it out properly. Also, if you use a sort of small medium sized brush, this is going to benefit you a lot, because if you go in with a bigger brush, then yeah, you could disperse the product out a lot, but you could also put it in the wrong place, which isn't what you want at all with a black. So I'm just using really feather-like strokes when I'm patting this, and it's just better to take your time with it. What I'm going to do is go back in with my Sigma E25. I'm just blending out the edge of that black with the dark brown that was on it before. And I'm going to go in with my 227 and just flick the edge out. And then I'm going to go in again with the black. I'm going to put that directly on the corner of my eye. It's lots of backwards and forwards. Sorry, that was my throat. You feel like you've got a little bit too much black on, then what you can do is you just pack on the colours that you were using before, and that should cover it a little bit. Honestly, I don't like using blacks. I like it just to be more of a dark brown, so I'm just covering it up slightly with browns. Now what I'm doing is I'm just going back in with the dark brown, flicking that outwards. I feel like a black's more difficult for people with more hooded eyes. Like on this one, my eye's more hooded, so it was a bit more difficult for me. But the more defined your eyelid, the less likely you're gonna have problems with it, realistically. So in this eye, I'm having an easier time blending it all out. I'm just gonna blend it out a little bit more with the brick shade. Now all I'm really doing is trying to lift my outer corners out a little bit. Just keep going backwards and forwards with these steps until you're happy with how it looks. You will get there. With a black, you're definitely better off tapping it on rather than blending it out. And I'm going to be using the shade Universal, which is the first colour in the palette, this one. And I'm going to be packing that on with a Sigma E55. And again, just tapping that on. This isn't a super defined look or anything, so it doesn't matter if you're just putting it on willy-nilly. Now I'm going to take the shade with the brick colour on it, and I'm just going to stamp that corner in between the black and that Universal shade, just to blend them two colours together. And I'm just tapping that on. Now you're probably going to have a bit of fallout, so all you want to do is just wipe that away. And obviously because you've got no foundation on there, you're not going to be wiping any of it off, so there's no waste. Now when you're getting really close to like where you've put your eyeshadow, you just want to tap it, preferably with a baby wipe. Now I'm going to tightline my upper lash, top and bottom, with the Sigma gel liner in Wicked, using my Sigma E05 brush. And as always, the mascara I'm going to be using is the Iconic Boom mascara. I'm actually going to put some tribal stripes on my face. And again, I'm just going to get my sponge. I'm more dragging the foundation to spread it rather than tapping it. So I'm just doing this. I feel like to get the best results with this foundation for me, I'm not really keen on it anymore, just on its own. I definitely always apply an oil underneath it. Always, always, always. I feel like I do that with every foundation anyway, just because I like the finish better. But it definitely makes it more manageable to spread because it is quite a thick foundation. I always really hydrate my skin when I use this. But it is so gorgeous and flawless, and I don't think anything can really replace this for me. Now for my nose, I'm just taking a little bit of product onto my sponge and again just wiping it. I'm really pressing it in. I've just done my brows because they were looking tragic. Now I'm going to go in with my Tarte Shape Tape to conceal. Now when you get to doing your under eyes, you want to put that concealer right underneath your lower lash line. This is just so when you put your eyeshadow down, it'll have something to stick to, because eyeshadow and bare skin is a dreadful combination, let me tell you that. I'm just taking the shade Orb on a 224 brush and just sweeping that underneath to start off with. I like to dig the brush underneath my crease and just swirl and buff. Now I'm going in with a Zoeva 230, taking the brick shade and buffing that on as well. Tight it to the lash line. I don't really blend it on, I literally just stamp it to get the full pigment. And then I'm going to go in with In the Zone on the same brush and just stamp it on the outer corner. And then I'm going to take a tiny bit of the black called Whiz and stamp that in the corner as well. And then that's it, that's completely finished to me. Now I think I'm going to go back into my Sigma liner and just tightline my bottom lash line. And I'm going to take that about 3/4 of the way across. I've got no idea if I actually recorded this part, but I'm just setting with the Beauty Bakery powder in yellow with this Hue Spicy brush. And I really love this powder. I feel like it gives you like a filter. To highlight, I'm going to be using the Sinner shade from the Stacey Marie palette. I'm using a Sigma F42 brush. And I'm also going to use the same shade to do my nose, Cupid's bow and inner corners, just to tie everything together. To bronze, I'm going to be using my NYX contour palette as per, and for a change I'm going to use this brand new Beauty Bakery brush, which I'm excited to use. How pretty is it, by the way? Pink and rose gold. Oh, It's so soft. Even though I'm using a different brush, my technique's still the same. I'm still patting it on. And to clean up any mess, I'm just taking that banana shade to chisel out a little bit. I'm just going to line my lips with probably my most used liner, which is the Rimmel Tiramisu liner. Then over the top, I'm going to use the Pixie Matte Beige liquid lipstick. And then I'm just going to pat over the top just so that it's a nice thin layer. Then I'm going to wipe away the excess powder. I'm going to apply a little bit of Heartthrob by Phase Zero. And by a little, I mean a lot. Now I'm just going to mist my face with this water mist. It's literally £1. And that's the finished look, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up, leave me a cute comment, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.